Hello, folks. Excuse me. I'm Endymion for the Dorked Arms, etc., and I'm sewing. Got my black thread, my spool, and my needle. I need my pocket knife. I've got extra needles, and I'm sewing a Gambeson. For those of you who don't know, a Gambeson is an armored, well, not armored, but it is armor. It's cloth armor. To be worn. It's like a medieval Renaissance era thing. It's basically just cloth, but it's supposed to be layered upon layered upon layer upon layer of cloth. And I've got the sleeves done. This is my first time sewing for a major project. And give me just a second. I gotta go get my pocket knife. I'm back. I'm back. Bum, ba-dum, ba-dum, ba-doo-doo-doo-doo. Da-dum, da-dum, da-da-da-da-da-da. Back in black in the sack. Turns out I'm an insomniac. Scaramouche. I'm a moose. Yeah, so these are all taken to my dad's measurements. And I don't expect this to turn out well, but I'm gonna do my best. It's a lot of tedious work. I'm not necessarily going to be talking through the whole thing. I just thought it would be a fun thing to share. Gonna move that. I think we got plenty of natural lighting, so we'll be fine. And it's summer, so sunset isn't for a while. I've got my water, got my pocket knife, and I've got my stream. So I'm first going just going to pull this out for a big old thread. Got a big old thread. Just reminds me of the Try Guys. When they're doing Try Boo. It's Ned. I got a big old dick. I don't know how well y'all can hear me, and there doesn't seem to be anyone here. So it's literally just me. That's okay. Because it's okay to be alone. It's okay to be alone. That's an old song idea. It's okay to be alone. Oh, I mangled that end. I mangled it. Mangled the end of my thread. Oh no. I mangled the end of my thread. Ah! Anyway. Yeah, the process of tying knots for this is tedious and ridiculous. Because I'm just going around. Just time after time. Oh, I haven't listened to Time After Time. Is that a good song? I don't know. Basically, I'm just See, this is what I'm talking about. It's just so darn tedious. Well, it's difficult because I want to get it close to this end. So that was pretty good. And then we're just doing knots on top of knots on top of knots, and I do this like 20, 30 times. This is not a particularly entertaining stream. I'm just going to say that right now. It's never an entertaining stream. Sewing is not entertaining. I don't know why people watch people sew. Like, there are sewing shows. It's like, you're not watching this for entertainment. You're watching this for technique and shit. But I don't have any technique, man. I'm just a dude making a Gambeson. And the two knots are separated. These knots are not adjacent. Puns. They're adjacent, but they are not as close as I would like them to be. Just like my friends. Okay, there. Now we got one knot on top of the other. Still have that one outlier knot. There. Oh, and it came off. Okay, now we've got 3 adjacent and separate knots. Trick is you gotta move the loop. Move the loop, my boy. Move the loop. There. Combined those two. And why am I making such a large knot? Because this goddamn string must not be able to pass through the hole of the needle. So I need to make a knot at this end that is larger than the hole which the needle will be creating. And I chose the wrong needle. I chose, for one, the needle set is actually for leather. I don't know if there are any. Shit, there's another separate knot. I don't know if there are any leather working experts who will find this stream. But of this I can assure you, I am not one of them. I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. Basically, I'm just improvising. I'm just doing my thing. I don't want to do a crotch shot, and I certainly don't. I certainly don't want to give you my shirt. Ooh, forgot how to tie a knot. Okay, I think we're getting there. Just need like 5 more loops, I think. There we go. So yeah, I'm making a Gambeson. For those of you who do not know, Gambesons were normally made of wool and cotton, mostly wool, because sheep's wool, if you're not familiar, wool is a particularly good material to use if you're trying to make water resistant and potentially shit, very warm, dense clothing. That being said, if you layer multiple layers excuse me, if you layer multiple layers, what creative language right there. Professional writer. If you layer multiple pieces of wool on top of each other, you will in fact inevitably get one heckin' good piece of armor, but you got to do dozens and dozens and dozens of layers, as I understand it. This is a U-Haul blanket that I'm making this out of. I'm not going to say who sent it to me, but it came with a particular present. I think we've got a good knot. I'm just going to do 3 more loops. Thing is, though, this Gambeson isn't made to deal with edged weapons or sharp weapons like an actual Gambeson is. This will literally just be some sparring equipment for me and my dad. And I do want to be rather clear on that. It's made for my dad, not to my proportions, not to my dimensions. Although I'm sure once I get fat, uh, it will suit me. Also, I'm going to say this right now. Fat does not make you ugly or beautiful, and beauty should not be a thing that you aspire to as an adult. I'm just going to say this. You can make yourself feel pretty. You can make yourself feel handsome however you want, but that's not about attractiveness. That's about I feel confident enough to share. I feel confident and comfortable enough to share this image of who I am, which I realize that I am no expert, nor do I have very much experience at all. I'm literally a minor. Well, technically, no, I'm not a minor. Oop, personal information. Not going to give that out. But I am. Excuse me. I am not so coincidentally tad experienced when it comes to my own crises of self image. So if that kind of philosophizing about, how petty and stupid the pursuit of beauty and wealth and other fleeting aspects to human life, such as human life, genuinely interests you, um, just let me know. We can talk about it. I'm starting to think that I should have gone for a more moderate length, like what I did for the sleeves. Okay, be good. But I'm just gonna do this bottom section first, I think. Mm, well, we're gonna go up into the armpit. That's what we're gonna do. Go up into the armpit. But we're gonna go in a very roundabout way. I can understand why people use sewing machines, because this is tedious. Sewing machine can like cleave this time in half. On top of on top of the fact that, wait a second. Nope, that's not how I was supposed to do it. Shit. Well, now I've got this. Ow, fuck. I just stabbed myself in the leg. Oof. Again, no wonder people stop doing this. For God's sake, it's just gonna tangle everywhere. It's exactly what's gonna happen. I'm a little scared every time I put that in my mouth that I'm gonna like cough or sneeze and it's gonna lodge in my throat and then I'll just choke on my own blood. That's dark. That's dark shit. You know what else is dark shit? Shit. Shit is dark shit. Unless you're eating incorrectly and then it's like bright green. We don't need to talk about fecal matter. That's not what we're here for. I don't know what you. Oh, I fucked it up again. God damn. Okay, well, I'm gonna flip it so that it's actually like facing me, so that this side is like accessible. You want to talk accessibility? We can talk about disability. Is that my one viewer is gone? That was my one viewer. My one viewer is gone. Cool. Um, that's fine. Yeah. Hey, I think there's one person in the chat or watching. Hello. Yeah, popped up a couple times too. My sewing skills are subpar. Strings got entangled. I spent like the first 10 minutes just literally tying knots. Just literally tying knots on this godforsaken string. I don't know if you guys can see this. This godforsaken string. Like, fuck. I saw we had two for a second there and then someone left. That's okay. I'm not going to hold it against you. It's literally just some weirdo with a mustache sewing. So, nothing sexier than a man sewing. Because heteronormativity is bullshit. God, this is the one thing. The one thing I don't like about sewing, though, is I don't have a sew, and she doesn't really care about my projects. Of course, anyone who knows me would be like, "Oh, Rich, if you lose one in a supermarket, you always got a replacement, though." That's a very Italian attitude. Oh, we lost one. All right. Well, another one. We gotta find it. Oh, we could just make another one. You're willing if I am. I'm willing if you are. Bada bing, bada boom. Yeah. Right now, I'm just working on the bottom hem of this U-Haul blanket Gambeson. Gambesons are very interesting because it's way more effective as armor than one might anticipate. There have been a couple documentaries, actually, a couple documentaries and quite a few YouTube videos from Shadiversity and I think Scalagrim. Those are both YouTubers who are into historical European martial arts and everything. Uh, they've both talked about cloth versus leather armor, and like if you watch Vikings or a lot of other historical or quasi historical shows, they put like Vikings in like biker jackets. I No, no, people didn't wear that. They wore gambesons, they wore chainmail. Ah, shit, what happened to my string? Got tangled up. What is this? Oh, no, it's just caught on loop. It's loop on loop action right there. But they put these like Vikings in like leather bracers and leather studded shirts. And again, that doesn't provide any protection. Boiled leather can provide some protection, but no, what you want to go for is a good gambeson. If you can put chainmail, if you can afford chainmail, you put chainmail on over that. And if you're sensible, you would also buy a helmet or just Gambeson and a helmet. It's a good combination based on our own archaeological finds across Scandinavia, and that's including Iceland. Ah, fuck! It got tangled again. Based on our findings across Scandinavia, we know. Shit! I need the tweezers. We know that the sword was not a very common weapon. It was a status symbol. You have one raider, one person going these Vikings or raids would have a sword. Maybe two or three of them would have swords, but you didn't have. Uh, you usually didn't have. I'm not an expert, but based on what I've read, it would be arguable that something like 10% of the armed men, which was most of them, because even if you were a farmer, you were expected to be like, hey, do you want to go Viking? It was a bad accent. Don't know what that was supposed to be. That sounded Russian. We're having company tonight. Bit of personal information. We're having company over tonight, and I really don't wanna share my house with any company, but we are. But that's okay because it's like my stepdad's buddy, and this buddy is really cool. He's a cool dude. Way better than like half the people I meet at work, certainly. Not necessarily my coworkers, but you know, customers. Can I get a side of garlic aioli? Like, no. You have a side of garlic aioli. It's a tub. I brought you an entire 7-ounce ramekin. 7 ounces of garlic aioli. You don't need more than that on your burger. For God's sake, you're ruining it. Very difficult to ruin our chef's stuff, though. Very difficult. Although, we have like 3 or 4 chefs. One of them made a batch of meatloaf. Way oversalted. Way oversalted. Just random bad shit. So there's that. I think I've got my system good on the sewing, though. I think I've got a decent thing going right now. Thing is, like it seems secure now, but then under stress in sparring, it's gonna tear. That's the reality of it. And I am sewing the first 2 layers of this of the this is right breast. So right torso, I should say. The right torso piece on this Gambeson. I don't know if you are the same one person who's been with this stream so far. If you're new, I'm Endymion for the Dork at Arms, etc. And I have daddy issues. Which I put off this project for a long time. This was originally going to be a Christmas present for him, for my dad. Only whenever I have a project, I don't want to complete it. Like, I want to see it come to fruition, but I don't want to see how I'll fuck up. If you catch my drift. I made it plain as day. But it's like the end goal is such a high ideal in my mind. There's no way that anything, realistically speaking, could match it, could come close. So, whenever I do eventually screw up, or I just continue, I've always got this fear that, like, no matter what I do, I'm going to screw it up because that's who I am. That's what I do. So I put off this Gambeson for months. Because on top of that, I'm also just I'm not I can't think of my dad as my dad anymore. It's weird. Like, I've talked about this with one of my sisters. I cannot for the life of me think of him as my dad because when I do, it's just too damn painful. It's, this man that I know isn't really someone that I would choose to hang out with necessarily. Like, my dad and I have a lot of shared interests, but not necessarily moral values, which, is difficult. But then on top of that, most people that I hang out with have never viciously abused my mother before. So, there's that. And it's only the last 2 years that my mom's even talked about this. Just like it's good for her to talk about it with someone. I just wish it was a therapist, not little sophomore me after a visit to my sister in at college. We're just driving back. I'm minding my own damn business. Oh, hey, did you know about the time your father kicked in my ribs? No, no, I don't want to learn about this. It reminds me, uh, Steven Universe Future. There's just this one character. They call her volleyball because it's a whole thing. But Steven's already got problems with his mom. Learns that she was kind of pretty abusive physically with this character. And he freaks out. Like, I don't want to hear about another horrible thing that she's done. That's what he says, to my knowledge, to my memory. And I empathize with that a lot because, with my dad, I don't want to I don't want to learn about whatever crazy shit he got up to. That being said, he does have like fun stories about like going to an Aerosmith concert and it was Michigan in the 70s, late 70s, early 80s. Drugs abound, my friends. So it's weird. And it's hard. I my sister, I talked to her about this and she's like, I don't really think of him as my dad anymore. He's just a friend that we talk to, which is also weird to me. Weird to me because for years, and I mean years, I've been compared to my dad a lot, which, the old saying, like father, like son. I don't want to become my dad. I released a video like 5, 6 weeks ago, I think, comparing myself and what I want to be as a father versus what I am afraid of becoming as a father with Stolas from Hell of a Boss. Which also, I think if I were to share, this is just a random thing, if I were to share original poetry, I would love to do something that is heavily inspired. Wait a second. Yeah, heavily inspired uh, by Hell of a Boss. Just, or really just any like fandom that I have vaguely. Oh, no. That I have vaguely talked about. So that being said, that's another thing that I'm kind of afraid of with this channel. Like, I don't want to become so invested in this channel that I become like emotionally dependent. Being a YouTuber would be cool, but that's not what I want to do with my life. That's cool if that is, for you, what you want to do. No judgment. But I want to teach. I'll never admit that to my mom. I want to teach and I want to do research about the things that I am interested in. Which for me is mostly about religion and stuff, and anthropology. Anthropology as in the study of humans, not the clothing chain or the yeah. Now it's getting a little more manageable with this string. Like, holy shit. I am glad though, because the good thing about doing the long string is I don't have to spend another 10 minutes doing these fucking knots. Pardon my language. I think a water pipe's about to burst. That's not good. Just hearing it rattle faintly in the wall. That ain't great. Or I'm just losing my fucking mind. See, that's another thing. Um, People say like father, like son, and it's like, I don't want to remind you of that man. I don't. I'm not going to take pride in that. That being said, I am also, for show, uh, I don't want to divorce myself from him because I do have a lot of happy memories. And I think this is a similar problem to when people like the thing you like is problematic. Okay, your happy memories and what you've shared and who you've connected with because of this thing, whether that be Harry Potter, Lord of the Rings, whatever, that's not discounted. That's the important part. Not whatever, because there are things that are legitimately problematic and there are properties produced by people who are assholes. That being said, the time that you spent enjoying something is more important than any shame you could make yourself feel for liking it. You should not be ashamed of enjoying something. Mind, some things should not ever be enjoyed. Like, I like listening to babies cry. That's not a good sign. That's not a good sign at all, friendo. I'm making a lot of weird voices. There are probably a bunch of people. I think I heard my stepdad earlier come in, so he's probably going to be listening in at the door at some point or open the door at some point. And that's okay, because he's a cool dude. He is more of a father to me than my biological father ever was. Ooh, doing some ASMR. Well, this isn't a diurnal microphone, so you can't necessarily hear the difference. Whisper, whisper, whisper. Ah. Oh God. Oh, I wouldn't be surprised if I lost you with that one. Anyway, now we're going up this side, and wait a sec. Yeah, that's the armpit. Okay. Yeah. So this middle section, the collar, is basically at the breast. That's the midpoint. Gosh. And I do have a little bit of extra fabric, I think, on one half of these because I can't align things very well. It's stupido. But that's okay. That is okay. And I'm not gonna lie, I just threw that into the chat if anybody wants to talk about fish. Or cephalopods. I like cephalopods. That was a recent thing. I don't think I would call that a hyperfixation. I'm not going to use the vocabulary that is specifically made ow, made for discussing autism and the like. Oh, excuse me. Sorry about that. I don't want to use that vocabulary. Although, if I'm being honest, uh, pretty sure I might be on the spectrum. I'm like 70% sure, and then the other 30% is ADHD. But I don't have any clinical proof for that. I don't know. I'm not a therapist. I'm also not a particularly bright person, as I'm sure you can already tell. Thing is, though, ow. Thing is, though, I do enjoy this. Not sewing necessarily, but sorry. I enjoy doing things that I know I can at least accomplish. I like making shit. Making stuff, whether that be with, my Dremel and my chisels, or uh, we might actually get this second set, this second side done with this thread. That's pretty good. Oh, you know what I should do? I should measure out the side that I'm doing and then do twice that amount because I'm going double time on each seam. Now, my big problem with having all these projects, if and when I do have them, is again, I'm scared of how they're going to turn out. Nothing in my hands will ever be as good as what's in my head. And it's not just unrealistic expectations, that's definitely a part of it, but also just the sheer stupidity of creating this sort of overblown, overhyped fantasy in my mind. And trying to force that reality into, or excuse me, forcing that fantasy into reality. But that's basically what I've done. I mean, in recent months, just over the last 2 years or so, it's just. Man, wouldn't it be cool if I could draw my own comics, which is a big thing that I want to be able to do. I want to draw my own comic series, superheroes and otherwise. So I took beginning freehand drawing as a class. Then, before that, I thought, man, I'd really love to expand my musicality. So I took guitar. Now I play the guitar, kind of. Now I've got a guitar. I've thought about practicing more, but without a teacher and without solid work ethic, I'm stagnating. I'm not actually learning anything. And then with drawing, I have never been good at that. Although I can always just talk to my sister and have her critique some art stuff if she has the time. But also, she doesn't have time. That's not her business. That's not her job. There's this fantastical image in my head of me being able to write songs to go along with my comics. I don't have the music theory knowledge to be able to do that. I barely have the facility to just play a handful of chords. Like, I can only just read treble clef. And it's not nearly as intuitive for me as it was for me on bass clef when I played trombone. And now I got a trombone. And I can be practicing every day, theoretically, but I just choose not to. It's easier for me to choose to not, to choose not sloth necessarily, not laziness, but fear, to choose my own cowardice as something more important than my own artistic or emotional fulfillment. But I like creating stuff. I like making shit, man. This is fun. I need a tactile element. It grounds me. It reminds me solipsism is a stupid philosophy, and the Matrix and Matrix related, well, not the Matrix trilogy itself, but, you know, sort of Matrix esque conspiracy theories. Stuff that says this reality isn't real. I hate that. I don't think. Well, I do need this to probably be a lot stronger, so we are gonna triple this. I don't know what the hell's wrong with me half the time, but that's okay for now. Because for now, I can just do this. For now, I'm here and I'm alive. And I don't need a lover or a Grammy or some arbitrary uh, award or whatever to tell me that I exist. Because I have this. I have my senses. I have my mind. I think I'm going to encroach into this little space here. Oh, it's 5 o'clock. Crap. This stream is probably only going to be about 1 hour. Just to let you know. It's not even really worth it if it's any less than an hour, is it? Because then it's, the sunk cost fallacy. I invested time in this. There has to be something. I don't know, man. There doesn't have to be something, but you can always make something. That's, I think, the beautiful thing about being an atheist. God doesn't tell me meaning. I make it. I make that meaning. You could argue, yes, that's exactly the problem. You are taking the place of God. Like, no, I'm not. People are still making that meaning, even if the way they make that meaning is by saying God is the answer to all things. And that's the beautiful thing about religion. Because you have that communal meaning on top of. Let's get this closer. Hello there. You have the communal meaning on top of the individual. Now, admittedly, that may be an ethnocentric view on religion, because so much of religion and religious movements, particularly in America, emphasize your individual ability to choose that religiosity and that spirituality. You can choose to be with God. God wants to choose you. God has chosen you. But you must choose God. That would be the pointing. I could be a pastor. Just one with a really fucked up voice. Okay, we're going to go to the corner right here. Try to match those up. Best of our ability. I'm going to try to, to draw more, to write more, start doing little dialogue prompts and such. Still a lot of thread. I don't want to waste it. But then again, what waste is a thread when you've put it to use? But anyway, that's a really beautiful thing about community as it relates to religion, is that it is functionally both the collective and the individual. The individual may be the one going through this ritual, but the community is with them, and they are joining in the community of this religion. I can't remember if it was Malinowski or some other. It was it was some anthropologist who did an essay about liminal spaces and the liminal state, which is like you are in between being a member of the community and being an outsider. Because It's gosh, what's a good way of explaining this? Like coming of age ceremonies and marriage ceremonies. You go through that phase of uh, liminal space, liminal action. You move from being one state in the community into that in between space. You haven't yet been initiated, say, into being a wife or being a man, but you've already gone through the ceremonies of I am no longer in that space. That time is past, but something is ahead, but I'm not there yet. So that space, they talk about how dangerous that is, like psychologically and uh, in terms of the community. Not because liminal spaces are bad or anything, or being in a liminal state is bad, but there's just always that risk. Is that fear of the unknown. There's that fear that we're never going to really fulfill what that new role encompasses or includes. Suddenly, the supposed ignorance or ineffectiveness of religion comes into question. I see a lot of atheist posts that like religion is a disease, religion is a mental illness. It's not. It's a social construct. And no social construct can be wholly bad or wholly good because it's made by us. It's made by humans. We're the ones who give it meaning, who give it power. And that's a beautiful thing. I mean, our ability to give things a higher meaning. It's one of those innate qualities of civilization. Whether we're talking Indus River Valley or Greek, whether we're talking the Pequot people at Wirakuta, or just your everyday. Yeah, I could have sounded it more. Mistake. Or just the everyday, not so exotic, but nevertheless very interesting folks of the Appalachia. No matter what society or culture or subculture we're a part of, we're all still living these same principles that anthropologists describe half the time. Not every principle. I don't think polygyny is as common as liminal liminal states. But that's the really interesting thing about anthropology. It's not the we're not in the business of condemning. We're not in the business of moral judgment. We leave that to philosophers, that we can still pass judgment. Our job is to ask why. Why is this the thing? Our business is to figure out how a thing comes to pass in a culture and why it lasts. Where does it come from? This stopped happening. Where did it go? And why? The why. What historical events line up with this? Would be the when. And then, of course, we always have to deal with the who, not just of who are we looking at, but who am I to make this judgment? Who am I to make this analysis? Who am I to try to create some new ethnographic sorting system or category for this? And that's where thinking about ethnocentrism comes in. And I think there's a large misunderstanding of ethnicity in popular media and popular culture. Ethnicity is not race. These are both cultural constructs, but race is about constructing norms and values based on perceived, emphasis on perceived physical differences, and passing judgment or creating values based on differences, these physical differences. Ethnicity is about a constructed narrative that people share. American is an ethnicity. Inuit is an ethnicity. These are the family groups. These are the very commonly a shared heritage, or yes, we all answer to the same spirit or God or whatever. And ethnicity, culture, race, and gender, and sex, and sexuality, they're all intertwined. The values that we assign to each of these very real aspects of our human lives, how we interpret, how we hate, how we love. This got very weird. This is a very weird stream. I don't watch very many streams. This is weird. This is weird shit. Watching a dude sew. Dang nuts. Look at my nuts. What a wonderful knot. Colors of the black thread. So silky and hard to grasp. Make it difficult for me to sew. Without wanting to hurl my ass. Oh, that didn't work. Let's snip. I can probably reuse that. That's long enough to serve a purpose. All right, we're coming up on 1 hour. Let's look at the progress. We've got this bottom seam here, this side, up into the start of the armpit, basically. Yeah, that looks pretty darn good. Not terrible. So that was part 1 of my Gambeson stream, I guess. I'm going to be doing this like once a week, I guess. So I'm Endymion for the Rocket Arms, etc. Thank you. Oh, I gotta end stream. Okay, how do I do that? Fuck. Okay, now goodbye.